Hello, welcome to the Conway Daily Sun, Conversation with the Candidates. My name's Lloyd Jones. I'm the political editor here at the Conway Daily Sun. I'm joined today by a really special guest. I've got Stefany Shaheen here, candidate for the 1st Congressional District, running in the GOP primary.
The Democratic primary.
Democratic primary,
Yes.
My God. We should start all over again. Democratic primary.
We can start all over if you want.
No, Democratic primary, I apologize.
No, that's okay.
How are you?
I'm terrific.
Are you terrific?
Always a great day when I can be here. So it's great to
picked
see you, Lloyd.
You picked a record-setting day. We set we were the coldest April 21st on record here in North Conway. So
Yes, I know. In New Hampshire, we have to count on April being cold. Yeah.
You really do, and we had baseball games yesterday with snow flurries. So
Right.
we're weathering things. Better days are coming.
Yes,
I think.
that's right. Spring is here. We're over the hump at this point.
Do you think?
We have to be. We have to.
We have to be.
Yeah.
And so we're 11 months into your candidacy now.
Yes,
and it's
hard to believe.
And it seems almost apropos that this week was the running of the Boston Marathon.
Yes.
So I didn't know you ran the Boston Marathon.
I did 2 years ago.
Not this week.
No. I probably would not be able to sit upright if I had been running it yesterday. But yes, I did 2 years ago, and I was flooded with memories over the last couple days, and seeing people's posts and triumph as they cross the finish line. I have such incredible memories of that whole experience. It was amazing.
Oh my God. Was it your first marathon?
My only marathon, and
Was
really
it?
my only, I mean, since I was a little kid, I ran a 5K with my dad when I was maybe 9 in our neighborhood, and that was a fundraiser way back then. That was really the only road race I had run until I ran our turkey trot over Thanksgiving to kick off my training, and then the marathon. So
Oh my gosh.
it was a bucket list item I had promised myself at some point I would try to do, and
Really?
gave me an opportunity to raise money for diabetes research.
Cause near and dear to your heart.
Yes,
Family member.
Yes, my eldest daughter Ellie's been living with type 1 diabetes now for over 18 years, and so this gave me a chance to raise some money for Jocelyn Diabetes Center, where she goes and gets her health care. And I thought, I was about to turn 50, and I needed to do it before my 50th birthday.
Oh my gosh.
So little did I know I'd end up with a broken femur as a result of the training and then doing
no way.
Yes, so I did the marathon with a broken femur, which I
Oh my God.
earned in my own right in a crazy way. So yeah, I would be in a lot of pain today if I had run the marathon on Monday.
Oh my God.
Yes. Yeah.
Any similarities to a marathon in this race? I mean,
Yes, a lot of similarities. Even just in the commitment to the work to train. As you point out, it's been 11 months, and with the training for the marathon, it was a long time. I had been in COVID mode before I started the training, so I had a long way to go to get really ready. And putting one foot in front of the other, there's a lot of metaphors of what it took, and then also the support I had from people in order to get there. I mean, my family helping encourage me and getting me motivated and giving me the time to train, and then the support we got from people for Jocelyn Diabetes Center. We set a record with how much money we were able to raise.
Oh, that's wonderful.
And it just, and the best part of the whole race for me was about 2 miles before the finish line, I could not feel my leg.
Oh my gosh.
And I was, moving. Everybody was tracking me. My family was, waiting for me to cross the finish line. And I passed a young woman who looked like she was in distress, and it didn't really register at first that she was by herself. And then I looked back and saw she was by herself. And so I turned around, and we ended up over the next 2 miles. We crossed the finish line. We got through it together, and coming onto Boylston and having people cheer her on as I was helping her move from one foot in front of the other is a moment I'll never forget.
Oh, that's like a goosebump moment.
Oh, it was amazing.
Yeah.
It was amazing. And she was running for Mass Eye and Ear, and my daughter had gotten care there too, and she was running because her grandmother had gotten care there. And
oh my goodness.
Yeah, it was just the stories that I'll just never forget.
Yeah, what a connection. Can you recall Heartbreak Hill?
Can I recall it? Yes, I can. And it's funny they say Heartbreak Hill. It's not just one hill.
There's multiple hills, aren't there?
It's like 2 miles of hills.
Yeah.
But coming up the hill in Newton, and the town of Newton hangs a banner that says, "Congratulations, you've summited Heartbreak Hill."
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yes, and when I saw that banner, I thought, we got there. But then you still have so many more miles to go.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's an amazing experience, and the fans are like nothing else. And it's just the way the volunteers, the way it all runs. It was amazing.
Have we hit Heartbreak Hill in this campaign? Are we on the home stretch?
I don't think so. I think we
200
got
days till the election?
Yeah,
or?
we got about just shy of 200. We were saying on Saturday night we're down to 199, so I think now we're at 197. But we still got a long way to go. You know, in some ways I feel like we're just getting started because people are now engaging and ready to really focus on what it's going to take to get to the primary. And you know, the primary is not until September 8th.
Yeah, I know.
So we have a very late primary in New Hampshire, and this year it happens to be the day after Labor Day, which means we got to do everything we can to make sure people know and they're ready to vote.
Yeah, a lot happening over the next. You're going to have a busy summer, I think.
Yes, we are. We're looking forward to it.
And you're spending the day here in the Mount Washington Valley.
Yes, we are. Yes, and we're looking forward to
visiting all sorts of places.
Yes, a full day, focused a lot on the economy here and the recreation economy, the impact of, you know, energy costs and other things relative to small businesses up here, housing. So we look forward to covering a lot of ground while we're here.
Was there one thing, Stefany, that just led you to the pathway? I'm going to run for this office.
Yes. The one thing was when RFK Jr. became Secretary of Health and Human Services. And for me, it was really because as a result of my daughter's diagnosis, my whole life changed. And I've spent my whole adult life focused on healthcare and trying to make healthcare work better for people. And so to have a person at the helm of the agency most responsible for the health and well-being of Americans be someone who doesn't believe in science, who's perpetuating conspiracy theories, who's undermining people's confidence in things like vaccines. And I share all the time, I'd give anything for a vaccine for the disease my daughter lives with.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
And we have vaccines for diseases we know how to prevent that kids are dying from in this country right now, like measles. My grandfather survived polio as a kid, and that was before a vaccine for polio. And I remember as a little girl watching him take the leg braces off his legs at night. And I learned later that he actually tried to enlist in the Marines during World War II. And
did he really?
He did, but they wouldn't take him because his legs had been so badly ravaged.
Oh.
So he ended up becoming a welder at the Portsmouth Naval Shipyard.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so when I think about, we know how to prevent polio, and we have someone who actually has appointed this panel, this vaccine panel, that is undermining people's confidence in the polio vaccine and saying it should be optional. So to me, that was really the switch that flipped. I felt like I had to fight back.
And just this morning, today, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth announced the military will no longer require U.S. troops to receive the annual flu vaccine. I mean, that doesn't make sense to me.
At all. It makes no sense at all. It belies the reality of what we know science proves, which is we stay healthier when we take care of each other and ourselves by being vaccinated against things like COVID. I mean, we just all survived the pandemic, and we saw how different life became when people could get vaccinated. You don't need any more evidence than that.
No, COVID is still amongst us, sadly.
Yes.
We had an obituary in the paper yesterday where we lost an elderly lady through COVID.
It's terrible.
Yeah.
And the way we help protect her is by making sure everybody's vaccinated. And that's the thing that really, it angers me to the point that, thinking about the suffering that we can avoid. There's so much suffering we can't avoid. We have to work harder to figure out how to address, but we know how to avoid some of this suffering. And the idea that we have leaders who are perpetuating misinformation and lies, frankly, and putting people at risk, to me is just unconscionable.
How do we get the facts out? That's the thing that, I mean, science just seems to be taking a back seat these days.
Well, I think we have to restore trust among the American people that government can work for them again.
Yeah.
So things like, we've been spending a lot of time on the trail talking about the importance of Medicare, for example. And I know many residents up here have been impacted by the pull of Medicare Advantage out of this region of the state. And so, thinking about why doesn't Medicare cover vision, dental, and hearing? 2/3 of our seniors in this country need at least one of the three, vision, dental, or hearing. So many up here had relied on Medicare Advantage to cover that supplemental, be that supplemental benefit coverage. So, the fact that just gets pulled out from under people, then they can't afford to go to the dentist, they can't afford to get their hearing checked, they can't afford to, get their vision checked. There are things we know work, and we have to do more to make them work better for more people. And I think in doing that, we restore trust that government can work, and science can work, and healthcare can work again.
Yeah, we held a debate up here for 4 of the Republican candidates for Congress a couple of weeks ago, and Mark Garang was the moderator. And one of the words they kept throwing around was MAYA, and we had no idea what it was, to be honest. It was Make America Healthy Again. And they all swear to the RFK plan where you're supposed to eat 2 or 3 proteins a day.
Yes.
And
so I built a small business that was inspired by my daughter's diagnosis that was really focused on helping people.
Good Measures?
Good Measures, yes. And it was, it is a nutrition company. We connected registered dietitians and certified diabetes educators to people who were newly diagnosed with anything that was impacted by the food you eat. So it could be a heart condition, it could be diabetes, and the idea that you can follow these simple rules that are not really rooted in sound science. I mean, of course, no American wants bad chemicals in their food, right? That's something we know how to fix, and nobody would argue that. But the idea that you can oversimplify the health and well-being of Americans by giving rules that it seems like he's kind of reinvented, because the science actually doesn't bear out a lot of what he's sharing. I just absolutely refuse to accept, and I think, to your point, one of the challenges we have now is restoring trust and making it clear to people where the science really is.
Well, it seemed like probably when your mom was governor, we could agree to disagree on all sorts of things, and then we could still go out to have lunch.
Right.
Now, it just seems like there's such a divide between the Republicans and the Democrats that I don't know how you can work across the aisle down there, or why anyone would want to go to Washington.
Well, I ran for local office in my community in Portsmouth. I served on the city council, and I served on the police commission, which is an elected position. And what I found in that experience is that when you run for local office, at least in my community, you don't run as a Republican or a Democrat. You run as a concerned community member with a really clear idea of what problems you think you can help solve, and then you get on with solving them alongside your neighbors. And when those problems aren't solved, everybody can see if the pothole didn't get filled, or you're making a cut to a school budget, and then you have to be held to account for those things. So, I actually believe that's what most Americans want right now. They want leaders who are willing to roll up their sleeves, who are committed to solving real problems, and are willing to work together to solve them. Because there's just too much suffering right now for the gamesmanship and the partisanship. We have real problems to solve, and we need people willing to roll up their sleeves to solve them together.
And it's hard to believe it's not getting a lot of attention, but the government is still shut down.
I know. I know. And, ultimately, this is a situation where I was, as chair of my police commission, I was in that role when George Floyd was killed.
Ooh.
And so I remember the Black Lives Matter protests. I remember working with community members who really had very serious concerns about whether law enforcement can be trusted. And at the time, our police chief and members of the law enforcement team, along with community members, worked to establish some things that helped reaffirm and restore trust. Things like, we had process for greater transparency with how we track encounters with law enforcement and community members. We got more funding for de-escalation training.
Huge.
We got support for mental health for officers. Ultimately, the city went on to implement body cameras. So all these things we expect of local law enforcement. We need ICE agents to be doing the same thing. I mean, we would never tolerate police officers walking around our community streets with masks, unidentified, right? So I do, and we've spelled out a series of proposals for what Homeland Security needs to do to give people confidence that, that public safety is not at risk. And I think it starts with accountability.
Yeah, we've just, you turn on the news and every day there's a bunch of mass shootings, and it's horrific.
It's horrific.
There was the Louisiana incident yesterday, where a family of 14 gets gunned down, and then there were 2 more shootings this morning. It's just...
It's outrageous.
Yeah. Can we do anything about gun control? There are people who say that it's not the guns don't kill people, it's people kill people, and we need to do more for mental health, but...
Well, we talked a lot today about what we can do to restore trust that people have, that government can work. And I think this is one of those places, because I believe that when we watched as kindergartners were killed in their classrooms and government wasn't able to act.
Sandy Hook?
Yes, with Sandy Hook. We sent a message that government has no role to play in protecting people. And I refuse to accept that. I think, we know there are reasonable measures that the vast majority of Americans support that would help people be safer. And we need to get on with building the bipartisan coalition it's going to take to put those changes in place.
Yeah. So, It's only a 2-year term. Is that enough? Is that enough to be able to do a whole lot, or?
Well, in this case, in 2026, we have to win a majority in the U.S. House so that we can stop, the terrible imbalance that we're seeing right now in Washington, and fight back against some of the most outrageous things like, redirecting all of these resources for a war that is not clear we should ever have been in the first place, away from things like the health care Americans need. I mean, we're spending $1 billion a day on a war in Iran with no plan for how to get out of it. So I feel very strongly we've got to get a majority in the U.S. House so we can bring some balance to Washington. And then the rebuilding is going to take time, but we've got to get it started as soon as possible.
Do you see an exit plan for the war, or?
Not one that the president's communicated here,
Yeah.
but I think we have to do everything we can to prevent another dime from being spent on this war. I mean, $1 billion a day, $44 billion. And this administration seems more intent on spending money on ballrooms and bombs and tax breaks for billionaires than it does on the resources that matter to New Hampshire families. I mean, just look at what's happened to energy prices. People in this part of the state rely on gas to get to work. Gas prices are higher than they've ever been at this point.
How high are they in Portsmouth? Where?
Yeah, we were almost at $4 the other day.
Were you?
Yeah, when I filled up my tank, I have a 2011 Honda Odyssey minivan. We just hit 310,000 miles.
Holy moly.
Yes, and we were about $83 when I filled it. So yeah, it's expensive, and we're some of the highest energy prices in the whole country. And look at what the president proposed. He proposed spending money on this war and cutting things like home heating assistance. People up here, we still have to have heat on when it snows yesterday.
Yeah, we put the heat on last night.
Yes, right. So the idea that people in Conway and the Mount Washington Valley are going to have to spend even more to heat their homes, and when they do need assistance, the assistance isn't going to be there because this president is intent on a war we shouldn't be in, not acceptable for people.
No. Is the big talking point around the state now the war, or is it the economy, or is it both?
I think it's both, because it's the juxtaposition of what the resources we're spending on this war could mean for real people. And everywhere I go, whether it's small business owners that have been hurt by the tariffs, or teachers who are worried about their positions being cut because health care has gone up and property taxes are so high in communities, and people are, these local municipal leaders are having to make decisions about cutting teaching positions, gas prices, housing costs, healthcare costs. I mean, this year we know that the average family of 4 in New Hampshire can expect to pay an additional $7,000 for healthcare. I mean, having heard from folks up here about the cuts for Medicare Advantage, you have people who can't afford another $200 a month for supplemental coverage. They can't afford the 20% additional cost for some of these appointments. That's not acceptable.
I agree, totally agree with you. So what have you learned about yourself over the last 11 months that's made you a better candidate?
Well, I've fallen in love with New Hampshire all over again. I mean, this has always been my home.
From here to there and all over?
Everywhere, yes. And I've often said no one knows the district better than me, because I was born and raised here, lived here my whole life with the exception of the few years I left for college. My husband also grew up in Meredith in the Lakes region.
Oh, okay.
And he went to UNH. So we've spent a ton of time in the 1st Congressional District throughout our lives. In fact, I was joking when I came up, we passed Kennett High School, and Kennett High School beat my high school basketball team when I was in high school in the first round of the state championships.
Oh my goodness.
And I actually have a friend who was on that team, and I'm still, we still have a little competitive rivalry about the fact that we were summarily beaten by Kennett. It was a long bus ride home, as you can appreciate.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So, the best part about being on the trail has just been, reconnecting and getting throughout the district and falling in love with New Hampshire all over again.
Has it been the sort of primary you'd hoped it would be? Has it been fairly civil amongst the GOP?
Well, we'll see how the GOP plays
Democrats?
out. I mean, I think I've become the target of the GOP.
I think you are.
Yes. So, we can take it. I mean, I've shared often that people will say, are you tough enough for this? Can you handle how rough and tumble it is? And I think the thing about being a parent to a child who lives with a chronic disease that is as dangerous as the one my daughter has, I've had to stare in the face of her mortality more often than any parent should have to. And I know what real fear feels like. And I'm not afraid of the attacks, the unfounded untruths. We'll just fight back with facts, and let the record speak for itself.
That's well said. And so, got to ask you, what led you to become a Democrat? Was it hereditary or?
Oh, no, no, but it really has always been about making government work for people and caring about people, knowing that, we're in this together. None of us are, we're all human. This is a country that is based on our collective commitment of the people, by the people, for the people. And I think the Democratic Party stands for lifting each other up, leaning on each other, protecting each other, fighting for each other. And that's always been what it's meant to me and why I'm in this fight.
What do you think is the big difference between a Democrat and a Republican? Is there a difference?
Well, right now there's a very stark difference.
Yeah.
Because I think right now what we're seeing on the Republican side is a complete capitulation on the part of, even Speaker Johnson. I mean, how can the Speaker of the United States House completely absolve himself of his constitutional oath, to provide oversight? I mean, we did not, the Congress wasn't even in session all of the fall while government was shut. He just kept people out of office. How do you do that? And he's refused to insist that the administration actually hold themselves to account and come before Congress to make the case for this war. So, what I've seen among Republicans right now in Washington is complete, unwillingness to actually stand up to this president while New Hampshire citizens suffer.
Yeah, it drives me crazy that they went home.
They went home.
They went home.
I mean, I was saying if I were in office, I'd be outside the Speaker's door every day. The government was shut down, ready to go to work, because that's what the American people expect, and that's what they should expect. So yes, I do think the biggest difference right now is it seems like people are just absolutely unwilling on the Republican side to stand up to this madness, which is really what it is.
What committees would you like to serve on should you get elected?
Oh, there's a long list.
Is there a long list?
My very favorite would be Energy and Commerce, because I think there's so many issues that come before that committee in particular that impact New Hampshire. Everything from energy policy to healthcare and to small business. Obviously, in New Hampshire, we rely on small business. 90+% of our business is small business here. So I've also thought a lot about serving on the Small Business Committee should I have a chance. But yes, I could find many reasons to serve on many committees because there's so much work to be done.
Well, health would be a great one for you.
Yes, absolutely.
With your expertise, I would think.
Yes.
And term limits, do you support term limits or term limits is determined by the voters?
Yeah, well, I think ultimately, especially as we're seeing what we're seeing in Washington, there's a lot of things structurally we need to do to address some of our challenges with democracy, from term limits to gerrymandering to campaign finance reform. I think the way we restore trust and we rebuild trust is by acknowledging that there are certain things that haven't been working as well as they need to in our democracy. So, people need to know that corporations can't buy elections. So we don't take any corporate PAC money. But I think beyond not taking corporate PAC money, we need real campaign finance reform.
Yeah.
A trillionaire should not be able to spend $300 million to buy elections. He should not be able to pay voters for their votes. And that gerrymandering, we're impacted by that here. We have executive council districts, District 1 goes from the Great Bay to Pittsburgh.
I know.
And these are things that don't make for functional democracy.
No.
And that's what people deserve. They deserve a system of governing that actually can work and well represent them.
Well said. So Kamala Harris is considering running for president again. What do you think about that?
Well, I'm very hopeful that we're going to be able to preserve our first in the nation primary here.
We've got to do that.
Yes, and so anything I think that helps encourage energy and enthusiasm for who we choose in 2028 is a good thing. I hope they all come here. They come here often. They support our economy. They engage with our citizens, our fellow citizens. And I've often said one of the things I feel on the trail is in New Hampshire, we pick the president, right? We believe we pick the president here. So there's a level of accountability that voters expect. They want to see you in their living room and in their backyard and in their coffee shop. They want to be able to ask you hard questions. They want to know you're going to be able to answer those questions. And so that's, to me, the best part of the primary. So, I welcome her. I welcome as many folks who are going to take a shot at this in 28 as possible, and I hope they all come right through New Hampshire.
That sounds great. And so asking for a friend, are you a cat or a dog person?
Oh, well, I grew up with both, but I have a son and a husband who are allergic to cats.
Oh, my goodness.
So, and we just got a puppy at Christmas.
Did you really?
Whose name is Blue. She's a little black lab. So my eldest daughter, the one who lives with type 1 diabetes, Ellie, she for 11 years of her life lived alongside a yellow lab named Coach, who is trained to detect changes in her blood sugars. Oh. So he is her service dog. He was her medical alert dog.
That's awesome.
It was awesome. He went to school with her every day at Portsmouth High School. He went to college with her, and he passed away the day after Christmas, a year before we got Blue. Oh. And it's, we miss him still every single day.
Is Blue going to fill that role?
We'll see. We're working to see if she actually can be a service dog. So she's getting some early training now. She's still really little. She's only, about 6 months now. But it seems like she might be able to do it. So we'll see.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
And favorite food? What's your favorite food?
Oh, French fries.
French fries?
Yes, that's an easy one.
Go-to?
Yes, it's funny because when I was, we have 4 children, and so with every pregnancy, I would say to my husband, I'm really craving French fries. And he'd say, you can't call it a craving if you want them even when you're not pregnant. So anyway, French fries, my very favorite.
Good.
Yes.
And then I was asked to ask, what's your favorite movie?
Oh,
do you have a favorite movie?
There's so many.
So many?
Yeah, I don't know that I have one favorite. There are movies that I watch at different times of year that are sort of,
seasonal?
Yeah, that are they're comforting. I mean, of course, my all-time favorite from the time I was a little kid is A Christmas Carol.
Oh.
So that's probably my favorite holiday movie. And there's others I love. Like I love The American President. I think that's a great movie.
Oh, it's a fun movie.
Yeah. So there's lots of good ones.
Oh, great. And you were a volleyball coach at Portsmouth High,
Yes,
huh?
I was, yes.
I didn't know that. You Clipper,
Yes,
you?
Yes. Well, my very first coaching job was at Oyster River, where I graduated
Oh,
from.
Bobcat.
Yes, and I was actually on that high school team. We won a state championship.
They were always good.
Oh, awesome. It was some of the best time in my life. I loved every
You
minute
guys
of it.
knocked me out of the playoffs in soccer in high school.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually recruited some people off the soccer field. I remember going to some of my friends and saying, you're too tall for soccer. We need you for volleyball. But yes, I coached the junior varsity team right after I came home to work on my mom's first campaign when she ran for governor. And then I played volleyball in college and then got to coach my daughter on the high school team at Portsmouth. And that was some of my all-time favorites.
Was it really?
Oh, it was awesome.
That's pretty darn good.
Yeah, it was
Volleyball's starting to thrive in our state.
It's awesome. It's always, I think it's, we still have the Northeast kids, you can still pick volleyball up in middle school and high school and go far. I think one of the challenges with how much youth sports have been professionalized, it's so hard for kids now to break in and try new sports, which is really too bad.
Yeah.
But volleyball is one you still can do that with.
It really is. And what did you want to be when you were growing up?
That's a good question. I think mostly I thought I would end up being a lawyer. My dad's a lawyer. And then I decided I did not think, I was thinking about even going to law school and decided not to do that. And I love being in school. I've always loved being in school. But yeah, I think I thought being a judge or being a lawyer would be fascinating. My dad was a district court judge when I was a little kid.
Oh my gosh.
And he used to, on days we didn't have school, it was a part-time court, because it's a small district court, and he'd let me come and watch in the back. And so that was always a fascinating experience. My favorite all-time story was a woman who had been cited for fishing without a license. And she said, you can't possibly cite me for fishing without a license because I've never caught any fish. So it should just be hanging the line in the water without a license, which is a very funny defense.
That is pretty funny defense. Oh, so what 3 people throughout history would you like to have dinner with? If you could choose anyone throughout history.
This is a really hard one. Well, I have to say George Washington first, because, and I've thought a lot about his life and his decision not to seek another term, and how at that precarious and precious stage in our American experience and experiment, did he make that decision when there was all this pressure to come back?
Oh, he'd have been a shoo-in.
Right. And how profound his decision was and turned out to be for the rest of history, that he saw that there was something bigger than his own, his own ego or his own desires, perhaps, and it was time for the next generation. So I definitely think of him often. I'm assuming I can't count family.
You could count family if you wanted.
I'd give anything to be with my grandmother again, my dad's mom.
Yeah.
Yeah, my dad, and I've shared a lot about my dad's story on the trail. He grew up in a tenement apartment building in Dover, New Hampshire. Neither of my grandparents graduated from high school. My grandmother never finished 8th grade. She and my grandfather was a welder at the shipyard, and then she was mostly a shoe factory worker. And she played such an instrumental role. She passed away when I was 16. So I would give anything to have another meal with her.
That'd be wonderful.
She was one of the glue that held everybody together, and never had a bad word to say about anybody, and loved unconditionally, just absolutely amazing. And then probably the last person I would say, who I actually had a chance to meet but didn't really get to talk very much to, is a woman who founded the Green Belt movement. She actually won a Nobel Prize. Her name is Wangari Maathai. And she won the prize. The reason her work, what she discovered was that women in very small rural places on the African continent were spending all this time hiking to get firewood, so they could boil water and cook and have safe drinking water. And so she created this whole plan to reforest different areas of the continent, and actually had people planting. And so instead of having to hike for 2 or 3 miles to find firewood, you'd be spending energy replanting trees, and it helped the climate and it helped the community. She was a visionary.
Boy, that sounds wonderful. So if you had the ability to change one thing in this country tomorrow, what would it be?
I'd fix healthcare.
Healthcare? That's number one?
In a heartbeat. Because if you don't have your health, what do you have? And in this country, we have the ability to deliver the best healthcare anywhere in the world. And that's what we should be doing. We should make sure that everyone in this country has access to healthcare, so they can feel well and they can be productive members of our society.
That sounds wonderful. Do we have any debates coming up or anything with you guys?
We had a community forum in Portsmouth maybe 2 weeks ago now. We've got another one, I think, coming up in Manchester. I can't wait to come up here.
Yeah. You're welcome anytime.
Yes. Yeah. As we've been saying, we'll go anywhere. As long as we can make it work on the calendar, we'll be there.
Is there an issue for you that we're just not talking enough about as a community or as a state? Or?
Well, I believe we're not talking enough about the deficit, because when you think about what this war is doing to our national deficit, this president said he was going to cut the deficit in half. He's doubled it since he's been in office. We're about to hit $39 trillion. And what that means for middle-class families is that interest rates are higher on car loans and student loans and first-time home mortgages. And the fact in this country that now the average age for a first-time home buyer is 40.
I know.
And we have so many people saddled with student loan debt and medical debt. And to be in a place where we can't bring those interest rates down, in part because our national deficit is so high, we got to focus on that. And we can do this. I mean, I think the unfortunate problem we're seeing right now with this president is he wants everybody to believe the only thing we can spend money on is a war. And that is just not the case. That's never been the case in this country. And we need to push back against that.
Is there anything you can say good about this president?
It's a hard one right now. I think the commitment to things like getting chemicals out of food, but then he ends up going back to supporting making it easier for people to have this kind of fertilizer that we know is cancer causing. So it kind of goes both ways. So yeah, this one's hard. I think ultimately, you want to believe in the good, but I think we've got to do a lot more to bring balance to Washington, so that there's a level of accountability that just doesn't exist right now.
And this is our 250th birthday coming up this summer. Anything special the Shaheen family will be doing to celebrate?
Oh,
or?
that's a good question. We'll probably be on the parade route.
I was
We're
gonna
doing
say.
lots of parades, which
How
I
many
look forward
parades
to.
can you get in a day?
Yes, I hope many. That's my favorite. Yeah, so I think we'll be doing a lot of parades. And I think this is, this is an interesting milestone, right? I mean, this was a grand experiment. Can we govern of the people, by the people, for the people? And what are we going to do collectively as Americans to restore trust in democracy and make it work for the next generation?
We've talked a lot about young people, and what message of hope can you give to our young people?
I actually do feel hopeful. And where I feel hopeful is in the faces of people showing up and speaking out and turning out. So you probably followed in Merrimack the collective effort to shut down the warehouse,
Yes.
the proposal for an ICE detention center. That didn't just happen by accident. It happened because local officials, proposed legislation to try to slow it down. Town officials spoke out about how much it was going to impact the property tax rate and tax rolls in Merrimack. ACLU filed a right to know request, which revealed information that helped galvanize people. And then over 1,500 people showed up in protest, and I got to be there the second day. There have been several protests. I've been there multiple times, but this one in particular, 1,500 people showed up.
And we weren't Democrats or Republicans.
No.
It was just all citizens.
In fact,
it was a community.
In fact, I was standing next to Gordon Humphrey.
Oh gosh, Gordon.
The two of us, Senator Gordon Humphrey, former Republican U.S. Senator who ran against my mom, and there we were together in protest, shoulder to shoulder. And we joked that who would have thought we'd be, standing next to each other, both holding signs in the same protest. But it speaks to, I think, the collective commitment to standing up and fighting back.
We want the best for our state.
Exactly, exactly.
So I think those are all my tough questions. Is there anything I didn't touch on that you said, Lloyd, we should talk about this? Or
no, I think we covered a lot of ground. I mean, I think one of the great opportunities is to connect to folks. And so the only thing I would say to listeners or viewers is if you want to learn more about our campaign, if you want to invite us to participate in things that you've got planned in the community, please reach out.
What's the best way to follow you, Stefany?
So you can follow us on social media. You can see our website. We're going to have our calendar of events up there. It's StefanyShaheen.com. And you can find me on Facebook at Stefany Shaheen, on X, all the social media platforms. But please reach out because we'd love to hear from you.
Sounds great. Thank you so much for coming in.
This is such a treat. Thank you, Lloyd.
I
really
thoroughly enjoyed it.
Me too.
Stefany Shaheen's running for the 1st Congressional District as a Democrat.
Yes,
in
as
the
a Democrat.
primary. And our primary is on September 8th.
That's right.
Followed by the general election on November 3rd. So anyone
it.
who's not a registered voter, you still got ample time to register to vote. That's
Yes.
the big thing. Be a part of the process.
Exactly. Please show up, vote. You can show up the day of the election to register, but don't
Absolutely.
wait that long.
No.
Make a plan today for how you're going to vote.
So hopefully you come back and visit, and we'll chat again, and I'll ask you a bunch of silly more questions.
I look forward to it. Can't wait.
Thank you so much, Stefany.
Thank you.
For Rob Struble, I'm Lloyd Jones. Thanks for watching A Conversation with the Candidate, folks. Enjoy your day.